try and speak into the phone again because I think it came out fairly loud. I think so, anyway. It was quite a thing in my house a week ago on Friday because I had a dinner party and I had some, to me, very interesting guests. And it was a formal sort of occasion. And I think I made a bit of a mess of it all because I was quite nervous and concerned about the proceedings for some reason. It had this air of formality about it, and not that I dislike it for that reason. I actually really enjoyed it, but it was very restrained, and I'd made an effort to try to be as compos mentis as possible, and perhaps that was not necessarily the best thing, but I think there were many things that were unsaid and nobody dared to say them. That's what I would surmise. That's how I felt anyway. There are things that I could have mentioned, and in absolute peace and tranquility in my heart, but I couldn't be sure that they would be received in the same spirit, and so I kept them to myself. Because it was the first real occasion when a certain young lady had returned into my house at my invitation, and because I wanted this. And I made no mention of the fact that this revelation, this awakening that I've had, was directly caused by her. I mean, of course, it is possible that she will hear this very recording. I don't know. She's not the sort of person, I think, that would listen to any such nonsense. But you never know, or it might come to her attention. I mean, I try to avoid giving out my details, but I have done it about twice. And if the people who received them have very sensibly lost them, then that'll be a good thing. But in the off chance that they haven't, then maybe some of the things that I say will become apparent to the people of whom I'm speaking. And that's another reason, but certainly not the only reason, why I always make sure that I am never dismissive or in any way offensive in relation to anybody. I'm far be it from my lips to criticize my brother and sister. That's just, I do admit to having a little bit of a go at the churchmen sometimes, and I do admit to that, but it's more a category, you see. And the same way, I suppose I could say the category of witches and witching. I have had some issues with that in the past. I don't think they're avoidable, really, because I do believe that there are two paths, and so I'm concerned about the left-hand path and where it leads. So I suppose I'm concerned a little bit about my brothers and sisters when I see that they are on that path. But many Christians who believe that they're on a different path are also on the left-hand path, actually. It's a tremendously popular path, and the other very popular one, of course, is the middle path, which a lot of people think that they're taking. But the middle path also is the left-hand path, ultimately. That's something worth thinking about, I reckon. But I mean, the left-hand path, some people will say, well, it's great, man. It leads to glory. It leads to enlightenment, and it probably does lead to enlightenment. But whether it leads to glory or not is obviously, debatable based upon what is written in the Bible. not based upon what any church is teaching, just based upon what is written, that's all, really. Well, I say that's all as though it were little, as though it were small beer. I mean, for me, that would be very big beer. But again, upline of all this is that question, well, is the Bible worth any salt or isn't it? That's sort of such a crucial issue. That's why it's been attacked, you see. Satan attacks the word of God. That's what happened in the garden. He attacked the word of God. He always attacks the word of God. There's a great deal of room for mischief between one word and the next. I know this. I'm a translator. The subtlety of language is quite remarkable. And the subtlety of a skilled writer, and then you combine that with the ciphered aspect of our Holy Bible, wherein the very letters and the words and their relationships chapter to chapter we can perceive gradually levels of order below the surface. This is remarkable stuff, and if anybody's looked into it, I don't know an awful lot about it, but I know that patterns can be deciphered in the order of words, which is another reason, of course, why the Bible cannot be changed by even a single comma, really. It's perfect. So it was an interesting evening, and I was unhappy with my cooking performance. I mean, I made Italian stuff that I think left people a little bit bewildered and hungry. And I didn't think that I'd really fulfilled my duties as a host and to the fullness of my powers. But in my defense, I very rarely have so many people, 3 people visiting for dinner. So I had to completely reconstruct the living room and remove the furniture, put it in the shed, get other furniture out of the shed, build the living room table, clean the house top to bottom, and do the shopping and this sort of thing. And I can assure you that it took me from 7 o'clock on Friday morning until just shortly before everybody arrived. So I was... it wasn't through want of effort, but there was a spiritual veil which was interesting, and so it made the meeting, the sort of encounter, quite theatrical, I found. And afterwards I wrote a short description of it on my blog. I tried to write in the style of Raymond Chandler, who's a writer who I do admire, although he is quite sort of depressing almost, I think, but very realistic. So I did that, and this was the occasion, and I wonder really, I mean, my interpretation of reality is unchangeable. It doesn't matter what somebody else says. If I think that things stand in a certain manner, that people stand in me in relation to in a certain manner, then I'm committed to that. I can't change that, my idea of that, because this is a revelation. I view it as a revelation. But it shall never stand as an impediment between me and my brother. Any such thing, it doesn't really matter. That wouldn't be possible. I suppose if somebody had murderous intent, I might resent it a little bit. But I'm sure I could persuade them to stop just by talking non-stop. It is quite effective.